Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you're all doing well and having yourselves a very fantastic day. Oh boy, man, we've been doing a lot of Phillies talk, of course, almost every single day. But I gotta tell you, man, the Eagles season it starts on Friday. I need some help. I really do because I not only not only do I want to talk about the Eagles, but I thought I'd bring one of my really good friends my boy, who is the host of the Clinic podcast. You should really go check him out. He's been a friend of mine for a really long time. Knew him in college and have really stayed close with him. He was in my fraternity as well when I was in school, AE Pi. And this is my boy, JC Money, Josh
JJ,
Cohen. What's up?
what's going on, my man? We're 5 days away. We're 5 days
Five
away.
days.
It's
Four
been so
days.
long,
Four
man.
days. 4 days.
Yeah, that's
4 days.
crazy. Listen,
4 days, bro.
dude, thank God we had the Olympics this off season because I don't know how I would have gotten through how long and brutal the wait between NFL seasons is.
I
It's
know.
really just ridiculously long, and I understand why it is so long. Football is a grueling sport, and it's
For
a grueling
sure.
season. Um, luckily NBA gets you through those last couple months, but that gap when there's no NBA and NFL is just so depressing for me, man.
Ugh. Man, and you know me, bro. I'm always on the grind. I I love staying occupied. Like when there's no basketball, there's no football. It's all baseball. It's all baseball. But I agree though about the Olympics. I agree about that. Before we get into any sort of Eagles talk, first of all, I want to make sure that y'all that are tuning in down below. This is pre-recorded. I want to make sure that y'all like and subscribe and turn on those notification bell icons. We're obviously going to post JC's. We're going to post his credentials and his links down below and all that jazz. JC, man, before we get into Eagles talk, okay, I do have to ask you because yes, I've been covering them for a little bit, of course. I've been doing it almost every single day. How confident are you with the Phillies? Because honestly, man, like I know that September is starting now and October is just around the corner, and I love Red October. I do. But I have some concerns, and I want to get like a temperature check from you as to how you feel about the Fightins.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned as well. I think they always, by the end of the season, I feel like they always turn it around. I feel like they always have these kind of mid-season blips, but their pitching staff has definitely decreased from when they had four guys in the top 10 in ERA.
Yeah,
Bryce has been really cold recently. Um, I think the one bright spot in the last couple of weeks was that game Schwarber had with three homers.
yeah, yeah,
And right now they're starting to, they're on a 2-game win streak against the Braves. So it looks like they're starting to pick it up because, I mean, let's be honest, the Braves are probably going to be one of their toughest, if not their toughest opponent in the playoffs.
yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely am a little concerned. I know I saw some of your tweets that you think Rob should be on the hot seat. So,
He's off
can
my
you
hot seat
elaborate on
now.
that?
He's off.
Yeah,
He's off my hot seat now. He's off.
yeah.
Baseball's every day, man. He's off my hot seat now. But no, he was on the hot seat for a little bit. It's definitely cooled off though. But speaking of another team that I feel like is going to have their division in another sport on the gridiron, I can't believe that football is 4 days away, man. It's like absolutely crazy that we're going to see some football in Brazil. Really, the NFL season starts in 3 days because you got Chiefs and then you got the Ravens. That's going to be a really good matchup. So, man, I'm looking at this 53-man roster, and first I wanted to start off with the offense here, okay? Um, so we talked a little bit off the air about, just about Will Shipley and how we thought that he would maybe take Kenny Gainwell's spot as the second tier running back. Are you surprised that he's listed as the third string?
No, I'm not. They've given Kenny a lot of snaps the past 2 seasons, and I think they just prefer that veteran experience there. Really, ultimately, it's not going to matter because Saquon is a 3-down back, and he's going to be getting at least 17 to 20 touches a game, at least. So that really is not a big deal, but I think in a couple weeks, I think Shipley will overtake that spot. Um, I'm not surprised at the receivers, Jahan Dotson being the third receiver. Clearly in training camp, they did not see what they wanted to see out of Paris Campbell.
Right.
Anaya Smith or Johnny Wilson. I heard Johnny Wilson had a really good camp, but the guy's 6'6", like 250. He's a red zone target. He's not a slot.
Right. He's not a slot.
Jahan Dotson, the past 2 years, has had around 520 yards. His rookie year was really good with Wentz. He had like 520 yards through like 12 games and like 8 touchdowns. So I really like him. He was a stud in college, especially his senior year. He had like 1,200 yards, over 10 touchdowns. And he's just really fast, probably faster than Quez Watkins. And Quez Watkins really didn't have sharp hands, and this guy does.
He did not.
So, I thought Quez was going to pan out. That really disappointed me. So, I think it was a brilliant trade by Howie, only given a third and a 7. So, I think that position's in a good spot. I like Calcaterra behind Goddard. I expected him to be the guy. And in terms of the running back situation, I'm not surprised Kenny's there, but I think will overtake that eventually. In terms of the line, it is, I guess the most concerning thing is, Tyler Steen played a good amount of snaps last year. Someone was injured. I do not remember exactly who, but Steen played a good amount of snaps last year and was decent when he played. Becton has had a rough start to his career with the Jets, but the guy's huge. He's like 6'7", almost like 300 pounds, but I think even more. So if there's anyone that can make this guy into a guy, it's Stoutland University. So,
sure.
I still think our O-line is a top 3 in the league, no matter how you slice it. Mulata's a top 10 tackle. Dickerson just got the highest paid ever by a guard, and he's a top 5 at his position. Obviously, we know Lane Johnson is a top 2 right tackle. The only guy you can argue over him is Trent Williams. Right. So, obviously we're going to be missing Kelsey, but Jason Kelsey handpicked Cam Jurgens,
He did.
2 years ago. He's ready. He's ready to be the guy. And I think in terms of the tush push, Jurgens is really, he's not huge in terms of his height. So he really is able to get low in the ground and get under.
Yeah.
That's what I think about the O-line. I still think we're a top 3 unit. So
in regards to the quarterback battle, okay. How do you see, do you see Tanner McKee being the second string over Kenny Pickett, or is that just not going to happen?
I think clearly in preseason, Tanner has outplayed Kenny by far, but Kenny has that starter experience for 2 years, and I think Sirianni has already said that's who he's going with because of the experience. Kenny is probably a little bit more mobile, which is, I think their thought process is if, God forbid, Jalen does get hurt, they're still able to do a little bit more than they would with Tanner in terms of the RPO and read options. And so, and I think Kenny is a little bigger than Tanner, so QB sneak as well. So I don't think that's going to change. Obviously it's a nightmare if Jalen gets hurt, and we don't wish that we have to rely on QB2.
No.
But that's how I think that position battle is winding up.
My only concern from the offensive side is that you don't have a backup center for Cam. So God forbid if he gets hurt, is Howie just going to have to pull some type of magic?
Yeah. I really have no idea who's going to be the center behind him. I trust Stoutland will get whatever guy that needs to be ready, but that is definitely concerning.
Yeah. That's really the only concern that I have. That's like a legitimate concern. Other than that, I'm not really worried about the offense. I mean, this year I expect this offense, and call me crazy, but I expect them to be a top 5 offense. I really do. I expect them to have one of the best offenses in the NFL. I look at the roster from top to bottom, and I see that there's a lot of talent. I think that they definitely have a lot of options, and Kellen Moore is going to have a lot of fun. I do.
Yeah, I think Kellen, I really do like him. Kellen Moore's offenses traditionally are very centric in terms of throwing the ball to the middle of the field, and he's worked with excellent route runners like Keenan Allen when he was with
Yep.
Los Angeles and CD with Dallas, and Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are fantastic route runners. And throwing the ball to the middle of the field is how you take advantage of the yards after catch guys like AJ Brown.
Right.
And last year was just throw the ball to the sideline, throw the ball to the sideline, throw the ball to the sideline, just no creativity in the pass concepts. Another thing that he really utilizes well is pre-snap motion, and that's
That's
something that we were
exactly
really
right.
missing last year, which was a
Absolutely.
Steichen used that a lot, and we had a lot of success with that.
Yep.
So I think they also are going to use Saquon a lot in the passing game as well, especially on wheel routes and slip screens. Um, I already saw against the Patriots Hurts hit Saquon deep on a wheel route. So
Yep.
I really think Kellen Moore is a really creative offensive play caller, and it's good that we're taking. Jalen said 95% of the offense is new, and I think that's refreshing to hear.
I think that you make some really good points. But here's my other thing I wanted to ask you, because obviously it really comes down. You have the whole entire car, right? But the car doesn't run without the battery. And the battery for this team is Jalen Hurts, right? He is what makes this team go. Last year, he had a lot of problems with turnovers. I don't really see that being a problem this season. But how do you feel about Jalen coming into this season?
I feel extremely confident in Jalen, and I actually have sprinkled a little bit of money on him to win MVP.
Of course you have.
Yeah,
Of course.
I'm a little bit of a degenerate, but anyway, I so I think Jalen has had a phenomenal training camp. The 305 incompletions, or the 305 passes without an interception. That is a record for Eagles QB in a training camp. That is pretty phenomenal. He threw an interception on the last day to Darius Slay, but has not
That's
turned
really
the ball
wild.
over not turned the ball over all camp. That's really difficult to do for any quarterback. Um,
Absolutely.
I went to open training camp practice, and Jalen looks as fast and as shifty as the 2021 to the 2022 Jalen. I think last year his knee was really bothering him. It looked like he injured it early in the season against the Rams, and he really looks shifty and lightning quick. He really does. And he also is throwing extremely well in the run. I noticed at the training camp open practice that I went to, he threw on the run 3 touchdown passes to Goddard. He juked out a defender and scrambled for a rushing touchdown. And he scrambled out of close to being a sack, and on the run threw an absolute dart to AJ Brown down the sideline, who was being guarded by Slay. So I really feel confident in Jalen. Jalen, his accuracy is really underrated. Jalen can put the ball in a keyhole. He really can. That throw he made to AJ, the bomb against the Dolphins last year, that's a really difficult throw to make. So I really feel confident with Jalen. And I think this whole thing about him not being the proper leader is overblown. Good leaders lead by example, and Jalen Hurts is the hardest worker on that team, maybe a
I
top
agree.
5 hardest worker in the NFL. He doesn't need to be loud, rah rah. This whole thing about him being stoic, I think, is overblown. He really is a really intelligent guy, and he always is, bringing the team together in the huddle and hyping them up. He doesn't need to be rah rah. He doesn't need to do the stuff that Russell Wilson tries to do. That's all fake. Jalen's 100% authentically himself, and that's all he needs to be. Everybody that speaks about the Eagles, even the veterans like Brandon Graham, are like, this is one of the best leaders I've ever seen. So I think WIP is just trying to tear this team apart. The whole rumors about him and AJ Brown not getting along last year. AJ Brown, he's the godfather to AJ Brown's children. I mean, what are we talking about here? Him and Sirianni hate each other, is what's being said in ESPN and WIP. Jalen Hurts is driving around Sirianni at training camp in a pimped out golf cart with Big Dom. I mean, what are we talking about here? WIP and Howard Eskin, they just try to tear this team apart, and it's not what's actually in reality happening.
My only thing to that is I know that sometimes, of course, like when when you got family, you're gonna disagree on things. You're not gonna be on the same page. I do think that the media did take things out of proportion, but I also feel like that there was some truth to everybody having problems with each other because guess what? When you're 11 or sorry, when you're 10-1 and you end the season being 11-6 and you lose in the first round, how can you not have problems like with your teammates? Like, of course you do. Like, you go to war with them and you battle, but I do think that they also sort of blew it out of proportion a little bit as well. Just to your point, I do want to ask you because the one concern that I do have, it's not really a concern. It's really more of a question mark. I need to see how this offense runs in 2-minute drills. I expect them this season to be able to milk the clock down like what they did in that 2021-22 season. I think that honestly that I didn't like how last year they weren't really winning these clock battles. And it felt more like when the offense was out there, they would go on these long drives like 2 years ago. And that definitely saved a lot of pressure from the defense, because your defense doesn't really have to go out there as much. And I I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how they're going to do when they have to run 2-minute drills after the 2-minute warning and they need to have a drive if they're down by like 7 or down by 3. Do you trust them?
Yeah, you're right. Definitely the last couple of years, this team has definitely been ground and pound, 7-minute drives, and with Saquon, that's probably going to continue a little bit, especially when they're up. But in 2 minutes, there's only, I really trust Jalen Hurts. Honestly, as much as I would trust Patrick Mahomes, he's shown in the Super Bowl he outplayed Mahomes, and the Eagles were down by 8 points, and he drove them right down the field
He
and
did.
scored a baller 2-point conversion, barreled through guys, and he tied that game up. And barring the worst call in NFL history, they win that game. So I think Jalen Hurts has ice in his veins, and I think he's a clutch guy, and I really trust him in a 2-minute offense.
Now, how do you feel about him running with the football? Do you think that he should get more opportunities to try to use his legs more? Do you think he should be running less? How do you feel about that?
He should be running more now that the knee is not an issue anymore. That the RPO run pass option game with Saquon Barkley is just going to go absolutely nuts. Defenders are not going to know, where to look, and I think they really can have some excellent ball fake, handoff fakes there where Jalen can just go on the read option and get a 15-yard pickup. So,
And then my last question is in regards to the offense. Okay, there's going to be times I see it a lot in basketball, right, where Joel Embiid can get you 35, Tyrese Maxey will get you like 30, and then let's just say like Paul George only gives you like 15 or like whatever. There's only one basketball to go around. In this term for football, there's only one football to be thrown. Do you think that Dallas Goedert is going to have some explosive games out there where he does get over 100 receiving yards and then AJ gets like maybe 25 and then Devontae gets 100? Do you see that being a possibility where somebody's not going to get enough touches? And do you think that that could be a problem?
I mean, I think AJ is always going to be the number one option, but right now, Goddard's the fourth option in this offense. So I absolutely think he's going to have some breakout games. And like I said in the training camp, they were really targeting him, and he was open a lot of the time. So I think Goddard will definitely be a big part in this offense because he's just gonna be wide open a lot of the time. Same thing. Even I think Jahan Dotson could break out as well. He's the
I do
fifth
too.
option in this offense. You know, he's not going to be the focus is not going to be on him, and they're going to find him. They're going to find him deep. Blown by a safety. So
Yeah, I guess that the better way to put it is like you don't think that egos like will get into the way. Like if Devontae's wide open and then AJ, of course, he makes this like ridiculous catch or like whatever, but Devontae is not like getting a lot of receiving yards. He's not getting the numbers. You don't think that that's going to be a problem?
I mean, I want my receivers to want the ball. I want them to bark for the ball. But at the
Right.
same time, all these guys have ever said, AJ, Devontae, Jalen, all they've ever said, Saquon, all they've ever said is all I care about is winning. That's all they've ever said in interviews. So yeah, when AJ wasn't getting the ball early last season, the first 3 games of the year, he definitely was frustrated a little bit. But I want to see that fire out of my receivers that I'm that guy, put the ball in my hands and I'm gonna go make a play. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. How do we feel about Grant Calcaterra at the backup tight end? I didn't ask you that.
I think he's solid. I've liked Calcaterra.
Better than Albert O.
Yeah, Alberto had like one good year for the Broncos, but Calcaterra is he's a little bit younger, and I've liked what I've seen from him when Goddard has been out. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that I guess that he's the better option. Look,
I
I
guess
know. Oh, sorry.
I will say I was surprised that they cut CJ Uzama because when he went to a Super Bowl with the Bengals. So I was a little surprised that they cut him and
Yeah.
cut
Why
down
do you think
depth there.
Why do you think that they did that? Just because that they thought that he didn't have a good preseason?
Yeah, yeah, did not have a good year with the Jets last year, so he might just be a little washed up. So I think that's all it comes down to.
Then the last question I have for you about this offense is the depth of this O line. I know that we talked a little bit about not having a backup center. Do you think that this offensive line can get the job done and put Jalen in a good position to succeed, or do you think that they need more?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're set. I think this is still a top 3 unit in the league. Um, they're going to provide so many holes for Saquon. Saquon did not have this offensive line with the Giants at all. So I expect him to have a stellar year, and I expect that move to be because of our O line. I expect that move to be very similar to when the Niners traded for McCaffrey and how that would elevate us. And Dickerson got paid. He's a top 5 guard. Mulata's a top 10 tackle. Lane Johnson behind Trent Williams is the best right tackle in the league. Um, so just the main concern is Mekhi Becton with Tyler Steen being out because I thought Steen in the couple games he was in last year was solid.
Yep.
Becton really panned out with the Jets, but Jeff Stoutland is one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. Stoutland
That's why they call it
University,
Stoutland University.
yeah,
That's
Stoutland
exactly
University,
why they do
right?
that.
Yeah, Stoutland U is going to get him right. So I mean, he's a mountain of a man. He's a behemoth. So if there's anyone that can get something out of him, it's Jeff Stoutland. So.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely. All right. I want to transition a little bit over towards the defensive side of the ball. And I think that the best way to start this, I don't know why this isn't working. Where is it? Let's try this. There we go. There we go. See, we're having some technical difficulties, but we fixed it because that's what we do. That's what we do. Even when it's pre-recorded, JC, this is how we do it. Um, but anyhow, in regards to just this defense here, okay. And so with the 53-man roster, what surprises you when you look at this depth chart?
Um, there's not really a lot that surprises me. Everyone that I thought would make it, made it. And I think the most interesting thing about the defense right now is the cornerback 2 competition.
Yep.
And I personally think it's going to go to Isaiah Rodgers as of right now. Rodgers, last time he played, had an 82.1 grade, which was the 5th highest out of all cornerbacks in the league. So, but granted, he was playing in the slot. Over here, he's already said he's not playing in the slot. He's going to be playing outside. So there's a competition there between him and Ringo and Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon in his debut against the Ravens, and it's preseason. They're playing backups, but 14 coverage snaps, 7 yards allowed, 1 forced incompletion, a 58.3 passer rating when thrown to. And Ringo against the Ravens, 5 targets, 1 reception allowed, 1 forced incompletion, 42.9 passer rating allowed. They've all had excellent preseasons. But right now, I think the job is going towards Rodgers. But I think by week 5, this is Quinyon Mitchell's job. I think Quinyon Mitchell is the next Sauce Gardner. I really do.
Wow. There we go. Is that I don't really know if that's really a hot take, but is it? Is it? Maybe it is. I don't know. I think Quinyon's going to be a really, really good player too. I I definitely like him a lot in the secondary. I know that we didn't really get to see a lot of Cooper DeJean because of the injuries that he was dealing with, but I still really like him out there. The James Bradbury injury, does that hurt them?
No, not at all.
I was waiting for you to say that.
It's very unfortunate. And
It is.
I will always be grateful for Bradbury. He was clamps the year we went to the Super Bowl. Last year was completely abysmal, could not cover anything, could not tackle, was just getting juked out of his shoes every single time. And, he's now playing a new position. That's not an easy transition, going from cornerback to safety.
No.
And, I think in terms of safety, that's going, I think, Maddox, CJ Gardner-Johnson, getting him back, 6 interceptions the last time he was with us through only like 8 games. CJ Gardner-Johnson is an excellent, versatile player, and he's a dog, and he gets the team hype, and he's a good guy to have in your locker room. Sidney Brown, I think, showed a lot of flashes last year. Blankenship has really, in a short time, really developed into a really good safety. And then you also have Sidney Brown. You also have Avonte Maddox coming back from injury. Yep. And Avonte is a very experienced player, and when healthy, he's a pretty solid player.
Some people were surprised that he actually ended up making it to the roster. Were you?
I was a little surprised because of how much depth we have there now. Cooper DeJean can probably, he's a corner, but he can probably slide into that role, as a safety if needed be. So I was surprised that he made it just because of how much depth we have now. But, having as much depth as possible, especially in your secondary, is a positive thing. So, but right now the starting safeties are CJ, GJ, and Reed Blankenship, and then I think we have solid depth behind them.
Yeah, and I do too.
I think that cornerback 2 play will be definitely better than it was last year.
The one thing I like about the secondary is that they have a lot of speed. Not only do they have a lot of speed back there, but the IQ that these guys have, I think, is going to be really put to the test. I'm interested to see what the battles are going to be. I always like watching Darius Slay go up against Justin Jefferson whenever they play against the Vikings. I think that a lot of these cornerbacks here can keep up with some of the best wide receivers. Do you think that that's a reach? Because I really don't. I think that they can play really good physical defense.
Slay definitely had a down year last year, but I still think he's a very good player.
Yep.
And I still think he's a number 1 corner. We don't really, I guess his first real test, against a number 1 receiver will probably be week 4 against Mike Evans.
Yeah.
And then we play the Bengals, guys like Jamar Chase.
D. Higgins.
Yeah. So, yeah, they play some really good receivers here. But I think Slay is still a number 1.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he still is a top 10 cornerback at least. But he's a really good number 1 option to have. I just didn't think he had a lot of help back there last year. And also now with a really good defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, there really is no excuses this year as to why this secondary can't succeed. I think that they have a really nice physical squad that can, definitely mess up offensive schemes. I do. I really feel that way. I want to talk about this linebacking core. Okay. You got Devin White out there. You have Nakobe Dean, of course. We all know the drill. He has to stay healthy, all that type of stuff. Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff over at the edges. How do we feel about this whole core? Do we like it? Do we think that there's a little bit of a hole there? How do we feel?
Nakobe Dean definitely needs to have a big year because so far his career has just been riddled by injuries and he has not panned out at all.
I think all the Georgia guys have to have a big year this year.
Yeah, he was phenomenal at Georgia, but I will. It looks like to me Devin White and Zach Baum are going to be the two starting linebackers. Zach Baum has primarily been a special teamer through his career, so that's a little concerning. Devin White, very early in his career, was extremely athletic, extremely versatile, one of the best linebackers in the league. The past 2 seasons, he's had a really rough go at it, but I think here he'll be rejuvenated, and I think he's a really athletic player, and he'll probably have the green dot on defense. He'll probably be calling out the plays. So I guess that linebacker 2 spot is interesting between Baum and Dean. I think in terms of our edge rushers in Sweat and Bryce Huff, Bryce Huff was top 3 in pass rush win rate last year. We ultimately decided to go that route. We decided to go. Hassan Reddick wanted 25+ million per year.
Way too much.
Howie is not going to pay that.
Way too much.
Reddick, phenomenal player, but Howie's just not going to do that. We got Bryce Huff for $8 million cheaper on a $17 million per year. I will say it's concerning that Vic Fangio said in a press conference he's not a 3-down player. Why would we sign him to a 17
he's not,
year? He's
right.
not a down player. Right. But he picked up a lot of sacks on 3rd downs last year, and he moves very similar to Hassan and around the edge. He's got some very skillful pass rush moves. And I also think Nolan Smith will be thrown into the fire a little bit too. I think Nolan Smith is like a carbon copy of Hassan Reddick in his build and how he moves around the edge. And he's really, needs to have a big year as well. Because we drafted him pretty high. So.
Yeah, I agree. Jalix Hunt. I'm pretty excited about him and seeing what he does on the gridiron. Do you think that he can actually make an impact on the edge? And do you think that he'll get some more snaps?
I don't think this year. Obviously the Eagles always love to rotate their D-line. So he's going to get a couple, but I don't think Fangio loves playing younger players. So I think it's hard to see him, getting a lot of snaps early.
Unless injury.
Yeah. Right. My big thing on the D-line, I think this whole defense relies on Jalen Carter having 10+ sacks. It's a contract year for Milton Williams. Jordan Davis needs to prove something. He's slimmed down. He looks a little faster. He was chasing down Jalen a couple plays in practice. But I really think Jalen Carter is going to be a phenomenal player. I think he possibly could be the next Aaron Donald. That's how good I think he is. I think the year that he was drafted, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick, and for months he was projected as the number 1 pick until that unfortunate, speed racing car accident happens that his friend and Georgia teammate and staffer got killed in. If that didn't happen, he was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So that was one of Howie's biggest steals of all time, and I really think he's going to be that guy. Everything I hear Lane Johnson and Kelsey and Mulata talk about, they went on Chris Long's podcast, and they're like, this guy is a really intelligent player and is calling out the offensive line formations, and really is giving guys like Lane Johnson trouble in practice. So, if you're giving Lane Johnson trouble in practice, you're a pretty special player because Lane Johnson does not give up sacks.
Yep. No, he doesn't. He doesn't do that. When I think about last year, okay, another guy that really disappointed me, who I do think is going to have a better year, is Jordan Davis. I mean, he only had 2.5 sacks last year, and a total of 45 tackles. I felt like that he did not. I felt like he really hit a wall, but I also feel like as far as the defense goes, he wasn't obviously put into a position to succeed either. But what are you looking for with Jordan Davis this season in regards to just his physical dominance?
I think they didn't draft Jordan Davis to necessarily be a get to the quarterback guy. I think they drafted him as a run stopper and to close those gaps because of how wide he is and how much space he takes. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Carter and Huff and Smith to get to the quarterback and Josh Sweat. And I'm looking for Jordan Davis to close those gaps on the inside, on inside zones and such.
And you think
Uh,
that he can do that?
I do. I do. He's a mountain of a man. He is.
Yeah, he is. He is a big guy. It is unbelievable. And what else? What else do I want to ask you about this defense? Patrick Johnson and Ben Van Sumeren. Do we like them on the third string part of the depth chart?
I thought Van Sumeren was awful last year.
Yeah.
But Patrick Johnson, he's shown a couple flashes, especially in preseason. You know, he's not going to get a ton of snaps either, but you know, I think he can make some noise a little bit. You know, and I think he's good depth. So,
yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Van Sumeren either, but Patrick Johnson I think could be another nice like little piece. I mean, like when you're looking at the third string guys, all you're doing really is you're just looking for extra depth. God forbid if Brandon Graham or Nolan Smith gets hurt or whatever it is, you know, then these guys are going to get more snaps. But you're not really looking for, you know, them to go out there and play like with the starting unit. They're probably going to be more so out there if it's like a blowout or something like that. You
yeah,
know?
I mean, the D line, what we did in 2022 was really unprecedented. I think 60 something sacks. You know, it was like one of the, you know, like I think it might have been the most sacks of all time by
Yeah,
a defense.
it was.
I would like
It
to.
was.
I don't think that's realistic, but I would like to see something around 40, maybe a little bit above. Because I really think we need to get to the quarterback in order to help the secondary. We can't give
So
guys time. So
Jalen Carter had 6 sacks last year. How many do you expect this year from him? Like 12?
I think 10 is reasonable.
10.
Yeah,
Okay. And you think that Josh Sweat's going to have another big year?
yeah. I really like Josh Sweat. I thought
I've always liked him too.
Barnett and giving Sweat the keys was the right move.
Yeah, I do too. I like him as well. I want to head on over to special teams now because we haven't talked about that. Obviously, Jake Elliott's your kicker. Jake Elliott is the man.
He's the
Also
top.
shout out to Rick Lovato, bro. Like one of the best long snappers. I mean, he's just a dog, bro. You talked a little bit about it earlier. Kick returner with Will Shipley and Isaiah Rodgers. Um, do we think that they're going to be the best options out there?
Isaiah Rodgers was a very solid kick returner for the Colts, which it is interesting. That kind of makes the cornerback battle interesting because are they going to put him at cornerback too and kick returner at the same time? We'll see.
Yeah.
But I like him as kick returner. I would have preferred Anais Smith, but you can't help injury. Shipley is interesting too, a kick returner, because he's got some speed to him.
I agree with that.
But yeah, you know, Covey staying at punt returner, I think, is the right move. You know, the kickoff will be very interesting this year because I don't really understand the new formation and how it all works. But it, you know, it does. A lot of analysts are saying it provides more room for a lot of return touchdowns, a lot more than what's been in the past. So, you know, it is important who's there.
Yes, I agree with that. And of course, Braden Mann's going to be punting as well. Um, Britton Covey, I don't really think that it surprised a lot of people that he's going to be a part of the special teams unit either. I thought that he did a really good job last year. I don't know why people tended to hate on him. And I think that with the new rules this year, I think that that'll benefit him as well. But what say you?
What I don't really know if the new rules apply on the punt. I feel like the punt is. I don't know. I don't know if the punt is the same or not. But Covey's going to get you a solid 10 to 15 yards on returns.
regardless.
So, that's all you really can ask for. So,
And then I didn't ask you this. But in regards to the total defense, like when you look at the defense as a whole, we talked about the ranking of the offense and how they should easily be a top 10. Where does the defense rank to? Are they in the top 10? Are they in the top 5? Are they top 15 as a whole? Where would you place them compared to the other NFL teams in regards to just their ranking?
I think just based off of how poor last season was and how abysmal our defense was last year, I think it's fair to put them in the middle of the pack, 15, 16. I think that's a fair ranking right now. Just how young our defense is, there's a lot of, first, second, third year players that we're relying on. So
That's true. That's true. But it also wouldn't surprise you if they finish in the top 10, correct? Or would it?
It would surprise me a little bit. It would.
It would surprise you. Well, I guess that there's only one thing that we got to do then. We got to surprise JC. I guess that's what we got to do. But I think that overall, I see them going 11-6. I do. I think that that's how a lot of people see them going in regards to just their overall record. I haven't really gone game by game, penciled in what's a win, what's a loss. I don't think anybody does ties, but those are things too. But in regards to that, I do see them being an 11-6 team. But the main thing, how they're going to win games, I believe, is just through the offense. I don't really see the defense specifically winning them a lot of specific games. I think that the defense can have some really good drives to get the offense back out there. I do see that being a thing, but I can't see this defense like Pittsburgh or, some of these other top-rated defenses just winning you games and just keeping you involved,
I mean, are you able to pull up the schedule? Because I could go through it game by game now. I'm pretty.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll pull that up right now. You were just reading my mind. You really were. You were reading my mind. Like minds think alike.
That's right.
That's the saying. So, all right. So let's pull that up right now. So here we go. Here's the calendar. So who do we play first? We play the Packers.
A little bit.
Of course. What's up?
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yes. And let me X out of that. So here's the Packers. Play them on Friday. That, I think, is a win.
I agree.
Okay. Falcons on the 16th. That's an 8-day, that's a 10-day layover. I see that as a trap game. I think that they can pull it out. I do. But I see that being a game where it's actually going to be closer than a lot of people think.
I see it being tight as well. I like Atlanta's offense. I really like Bijan Robinson. I think he's going to be a top 5 back this year. But first home game of the season, Saquon Barkley entering the building. I don't see how we lose that game.
That's true. Can you imagine Saquon rushing for 120 yards and Jalen Hurts just throwing for 250?
The Falcons don't have a great run defense. They just shoot on to pick it up, but I could see Saquon going off.
Yeah, I do too. They play the Saints after that in week 3. That game is on Sunday at 1:00. I see them winning that game as well. As weird as that sounds, I could see them go 3-0 to start off the season.
Yeah, I think one might be last in their division, so I see this as a win as well. I don't think Derek Carr is a great quarterback.
No, and then Alvin Kamara, he's their only option that they have on offense, right?
Him and Olave.
Oh yeah. I forgot they have Olave too. Week 4 against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers.
This is intriguing. I'm
It
gonna
is
go.
intriguing.
I'm gonna go win though. This is a revenge game for us. What this is not the same team that got clapped 9-31 last year. And when we played them in the regular season last year, we really did get to Baker, and I see our
We
pass rush.
did.
I see our pass rush being improved.
I,
It really comes down. I don't think Rashad White is a great back. Um, I think it really comes down to the Slay versus Mike Evans matchup.
I
And
think it comes down to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
yeah, go ahead.
but I think it comes down to Todd Bowles out coaching Nick Sirianni. I do. I think that Todd Bowles has had our number, and I think that this is going to be the game where I circled on my piece of paper with Jalen Hurts in the offense. I think I'm really going to see what this offense is made of, just because Todd Bowles really he's an incredible coach. He is.
Yeah,
He's a
very
really, really good
very
coach.
minded. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that he's not going to make it easy for Jalen. So
So you see that as a loss?
I see that as a win. I think that they barely pulled that one out, but I think it's going to come down to the final drive of the game. And I think Jalen is going to have to step up.
Yeah.
I do. That's how I see it. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up winning the game. I'll go with 19-14.
Wow.
19-14. 1914. That was over 100 years ago. Week 5, they have the bye. 4-0 going into the bye week is obviously ideal. That's like a really, really good situation to be in. They come off the bye week. They play against the Browns to start off October. That I see being a loss because of the bye and because of just because they're not going to be they're going to be a little bit out of sorts. I don't think that they're going to get off to the best foot. I think that they may have a better second half, but I see the Browns pulling that one out and Myles Garrett going off in that game.
Yeah, I could see this being a loss too, but I will say your boy JC Money is going to be in the house, so this is a W. This is a W. I have a very good record when I am at Lincoln Financial Field.
That's good. That's good. They're going to need you.
I'm
So that's 4-1 for me. The Giants, I know that they play in New York. It's going to be awesome to hear Saquon get booed by the Giants at MetLife. I think that that's going to be awesome. I see them pulling it out, though. There's no reason why they can't beat the Giants. No reason why at all.
Yeah, JC Money is also going to be in the house for this game. I see Saquon going for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think we win. I think we win like at least like 31-14.
Oh, you think it's going to be a blowout? I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I see them pulling that one off.
Yeah.
So then we got Bengals in week 8. So at this point, I got them 6-1. You got them 7-0.
This is where the first loss comes, though.
Okay.
I think Burrow goes off. I think we are not going to be able to cover Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And that's really all it comes down to. So I see that as our first loss.
Damn. So when the Phillies are going to the World Series and the Eagles have to play against the Bengals, the Phillies are doing some really good things. You think this is when the Eagles start to bring bad vibes to the city for this week? Ugh.
Not bad vibes, but I just think Burrow's that guy. And besides,
you know how the city is, though. They're going to get down after a loss. Ugh.
Yeah, not an opportune time, but
no, but who knows? I see them losing this one too. I just had to bust your chops there because I could see that happening. I really could.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah. And then we go to week 9 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Dougie Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. I know it's a Sunday night. It's on NBC, so it's going to be a primetime game for now. I see them pulling that one off too. A lot of green in the building. A lot of green.
Yeah, I think Jackson's defense is very poor. Their best Their best defender is Josh Allen, which he is a game wrecker.
Yes.
I don't think their secondary is good at all. And last time we played them, we had so much success running the football, even in the rain. So I see this being a W as well.
Okay, so I got 6-2 at this point. You got 7-1. Then
Or 8, or is it 7-1 or 8-1?
8-1. Sorry.
Yeah.
7-2 and 8-1. Yeah, I can't do math. Micah Parsons. That's who we have to go to. We got to go to Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons land and Dak land. And I think that the Cowboys take that game. Hate to say it.
No,
but
I F the Cowboys, but Jerry Jones. It's we never win in Jerry world. We always split the series between the Cowboys. That's just how it goes. The Cowboys defense is elite, and I see this being close. I don't see it being a complete blowout like when we went into Dallas last year. But I think Parsons gets to Jalen, and I think we have trouble against their secondary. So
yeah, Trayvon Diggs, he's going to be tough. I'm not wishing injury upon anybody, but he's pretty good. He is. He's going to be all over A.J. Brown, and they got a lot of other really good options.
Yeah, Duran as well is a very good player.
Yes, absolutely. It would be nice to see Kellen Moore outcoach the Dallas Cowboys from the offensive standpoint. I would like to see that, but I don't see it happening then. The Commanders week 11. So at that point, I have them going 8-3, or sorry, 7-3. I always have to do the bye week. I have to always count that in. Then they play against the Commanders. Okay. Jalen versus Jalen. W for me. It's at the link. I think this Commanders team is going to be good. It's going to be a very big game, though. And that's the reason why they got it on Thursday night. Because I expect this Commanders team to possibly come in second. I think that the battle for second place in the NFC East is going to be really close between them and the Cowboys. I do. I'm not just blowing smoke up their butts. I like Austin Eckler. Thought that was a really good pickup, along with Bijan, of course. They still got Scary Terry in that offense. They have guys. And Zach Ertz, I know that he's older, but guess what? Former Philly. Got to give him a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I do think the Commanders will be good. I think Daniels is going to be a very good quarterback, and he's excellent with his legs. So that's something we're going to have a spy on him for this game. Yep. We always struggle against the Commanders for some reason, but I on a primetime game, the link is going to be rocking against a division opponent. I see us pulling this out too. So right now I'm at 9-2, I believe.
The only thing that's tough, though, is that it's 4 days after they're in Dallas. That's the only thing that I think may throw them off a little bit. Now I know that it's back at home and it's not at FedEx. I feel a little bit more worried then, but I think that they can pull it, but I can also sort of see that as a trap game as well. Because then they got to play the LA Rams on Sunday Night Football in week 12. And this Rams team with Puka Nacua could be really, really good. And Kyron Williams as well.
Yeah, this is a game that's going to have to go into the late 20s, early 30s to pull this out on the offensive side. Absolutely. Yep. Puka and Cooper Kupp are electric. Stafford is probably still a top, 12 quarterback. So maybe even higher. So this is going to be a tough game. But I think we pull this out.
Don't forget about Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that guy. So I see them losing that game, and I think that that's their 4th loss of the season. Then we go to week 13 against the Baltimore Ravens. This is the toughest part of the schedule here. It's December 1st against Lamar at Lamar Land in Baltimore. I see them pulling this one out, actually. I do. I think that they can win this game. And I think that they can come out victorious in this one. This Baltimore team is an interesting one. They have a very good offense. Their defense is overall still pretty good. Patrick Queen absolutely got paid. But I like this Baltimore team, and I don't think it's going to be easy.
I really like Baltimore too. I don't see us I don't see us having anyone that can contain Lamar on a read option.
No.
The RPOs with him and Derrick Henry are going to go crazy. No one can. We have no one that can contain Henry easy either. I don't love their receiving core, but they have excellent tight ends to make up for it with Andrews and Likely. You know,
Yes.
Dave Flowers is a solid player. Don't know how he is going to be as a number one, but um, yeah, I see this as a loss. I think their defense is the best in the league.
Yeah.
Uh,
Their
you
defense is
know,
really
right
good.
up there with the 49ers and the Browns. I think they have the best defense. So I see that as a loss. So right now I'm at 3 losses.
Okay, so I'm still at 4. I see them pulling this one out. I think it's going to be a great game. This to me should be a primetime game, but I don't know what
Yeah,
else is on that week. But this is a really good one
yeah. Jalen versus Lamar is an extra electric matchup. That should have been a primetime game.
for sure. And then they play against the Carolina Panthers. You know, you got to go up against Bryce. I think that that's an easy win. It should be. Like, they should not lose that game.
Yeah, Bryce will be better this year, but their offense, they really have no receivers. Just Deontay Johnson and Thielen are their only notable receivers, and they're both up there in age.
But Miles Sanders getting a little welcome back.
Yeah, he was not good last year for them. They really don't have a great game.
No.
Their defense is solid, but they traded away Brian Burns, who is their best pass rusher.
Yep.
So yeah, this is going to be a rout. This is going to be like a 35-10 type of game.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an ass whooping. I do. And then week 15 they are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not gonna be easy going up against Mika, Fitzpatrick, TJ, and Hayward. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, their defense is elite, and Tomlin's a phenomenal coach.
Yeah.
I just don't, you know, I don't see what's to love about their offense. You know, Pickens is nice,
It's
but
true.
do you want him as a number one? You know, is Russell Wilson really going to have a comeback season? If Wilson sucks, is Fields the guy? You know, so
Right.
Arthur, you know, Arthur Smith just loves to, run the ball. So I could see this being a trap game just because of how phenomenal their defense is. That Pittsburgh's defense is a top 5 defense, but this is a W for me.
So at this point, I got them going 9-5. 9-5. So that's where I am at this point. You go to Northwest Stadium. I always forget it's not FedEx anymore. And then you play against these Washington Commanders. I see this being a win. I think that they take this in Washington, and this is going to be an important game. I think that this solidifies them for the division in this one. I do.
Yeah, this is a win for me as well.
So 10-5 there. And then you host the Dallas Cowboys. I think that they go 11-5 here too. So
this one's interesting because are we in a position at this point, to take that first seed? If they have the first seed locked, we rest our starters, but you assume the 49ers are going to be incredible as well. So this is a game where we still might have to play our starters, especially because we're wearing the Kelly Greens in this game. But I don't see us losing to Dallas at home. So I take this as a W if the starters are playing.
if they're battling for the 1 seed, I still, even if they have the division locked up, they're still going to want to battle for the 1 seed. They're going to want to get the bye. So I see them still starting their starters anyhow or any way you look at it.
Yeah.
So I think that they take this game too. And then Micah is going to come crying to the Eagles fans and be like, I want to be an Eagle.
Yeah.
And then we host the Giants last week, just like last year. right? This was the same exact thing. So I on paper we should beat them. Is this a trap game? Don't know. This is a coin flip in my opinion, just because we don't know where they are going to be in the seeding. Is the number one seed going to be locked up? Do the Niners or the Lions have it? Or are the Eagles fighting for it? Or do the Eagles actually, to our surprise, have it locked up? I don't know. So.
This will be Daniel Jones's last game as a Giant. He's he's terrible. He might be the worst quarterback in the league besides Zach Wilson. Sorry to my boys that are Giants fans. I have quite a few of them, but he's just not that guy. He's just not. And the Giants are a poverty organization for letting Saquon Barkley walk and signing Daniel Jones to a $40+ million contract. So
So
I see
I
I see
yeah.
the Eagles at worst as a 5-loss team, but at best a 3-loss team. So this is where I stand.
And I see it at worst. At worst, to me, it's a 7-loss team. I have them at least going 11-6. Because you have to remember too, like some of these games, man, are gonna be so close. And it's like whoever wins the last minute of the game, you know, ends up coming out on top. And sometimes you're not gonna get the calls. Sometimes you're gonna get no calls from these refs. Like we have to remember that. We have to take that into consideration. I don't think that there's going to be a scenario where we come down to the end of the game and Jake Elliott needs a 45-yarder and he misses, but that is a possibility too. I'm not like trying to be negative Nancy here, but you know, that does happen. So I can't rule that out. So
Yeah, I'm extremely confident in the Eagles this year. My degenerate self also has quite a bit of money sprinkled on them to win the Super Bowl as well. Quite a bit of money, more than I can afford. So,
it's
uh,
great. It's
so
great.
the last question I wanted to ask you about the Birds, because I think
Go
we have
for
a
it.
little bit of different opinions on Sirianni. What are your expectations of Sirianni after that down last year? Do you think next year he's going to be the coach of this team? Do you think Bill Belichick is going to take over by this time next year? What are your thoughts about Sirianni, and do you think he can turn it around?
I think Sirianni can turn it around, but I think that he has to know his place and he has to understand what his role is. The reason why he stayed is because we know Howie and Jeffrey like to control the organization. However you feel about it is however you feel about it. And the players do like him. It does seem like. And at least they can tolerate him. But if he's getting into the way of things, why keep him? But I don't really see that happening this year. I think that he was a target for the play calling last year, but it wasn't all his fault. It was really just a crumble of how the organization dealt with it. It came down to just the panicking of putting in Matt Patricia in that tough spot. I wasn't a big fan of Matt Patricia, but Matt Patricia, let's call it what it was. He was put into a really tough spot. But to answer your question, I think that if Nick can sort of just stay in his lane, be there for the players, and help the team with morale, I think that would be a really good thing for them to
So
do.
you think he more was like too hands-on on the offense last year, and now it's like Kellen Moore's 95% of the offense is new. You think
I
that?
didn't want to believe that at first, but now that time is settled and now that I've seen preseason games and I've seen even during the OTAs and all that sort of stuff, it definitely looks like that Kellen Moore is putting his imprints on this offense a lot more. And I do like that.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, I believe in Sirianni as a leader of men. Like you said, I think the players really do vibe with him. I think in terms of the run game, his play calling is very effective. I just think he's all Philly, getting in your face, talking smack, being authentically him, and getting just as hype as a fan when they score a touchdown or win a game they aren't expected to. I think having experienced coordinators around him and Kellen Moore and Fangio will be extremely beneficial and crucial to the success of this team. But I think purely as a head coach, just focusing on the, like you said, the morale of your team, hyping up your guys, you know, I think he's the right guy in that role.
Yeah, I do too. And it's tough. I did think that he was put into a tough position. You know, like when you're in the thick of the season, sometimes it's really hard to look from the outside looking in. But even during the last couple of weeks, you know, the press conferences, you know, he wasn't really saying much. And this is a guy who loves to talk. This is a guy who loves to get off topic, even with the media. And the fact that he just didn't really have that in him, it said a lot about how worried he was with this team moving forward throughout last season, you know, towards the end. So, would I have brought Sirianni back? No, but he's here, and I do think that he's put into a better role. But I'll tell you what, if they don't get it done this year, and if they don't reach their goals, my goal is for them to at least make it past the first round. Really, like that is my goal.
Yeah,
But if they fail to do that, then naturally he's just gonna have to go.
yeah, he has to get to the divisional to keep his job.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, dude, this was great. I feel like we should just because this went so long, we should just do the Sixers one on a separate stream.
absolutely.
So
I told you, this is what ends up happening, man. Like we talk about the birds and we go for an hour, 12 minutes, and that's what ends up happening. I'll tell you this from just an overall standpoint. I really do like this team. It took me a while to get over what happened last year, and it's a new roster this year. Okay, ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to can Jalen Hurts lead them on the offensive side? Can he be a leader? Can he step up? I believe that he can. I need him to show me, though. And the only way for him to show me is just by doing it. The one thing that really annoyed me last year was he would have the ball a lot of the times, and sometimes he would just panic and he wouldn't throw the ball away. My one thing about the whole injury that he was dealing with last year was I was thinking naturally to myself, well, if he's injured, you know, wouldn't he just, instead of just running or just holding on to the ball, don't you think that he would try to release it a little bit faster? And I don't really think that he did that enough last year. And that's one of the reasons why he turned the ball over so much. Can't do that this year. There's no excuses this year. He has a really good offensive coordinator. I still think that the O line is still pretty solid. I know that Kelsey's not there anymore. I still think he has really good protection. I really believe that it's all going to come down to him. You know, he is the battery of the car, and he needs to be out there making plays for everybody. It's as simple as that,
yeah,
really.
it does have to be a Jalen is in top five MVP conversation for them to reach their goal. It
Yeah.
really
We
so
can have all these other talks about, like, you know, how do we feel about the depth of the O line? We can have all these conversations about, you know, Albert O not making it as the backup tight end, but ultimately what really does matter is QB1.
yeah, absolutely, dude.
So, uh, and then I want to wrap it up with this, okay? Because we got Friday, right? Friday is a very big day. Players they were already flying to Brazil last that I saw. Keys to Friday's game from JCR blank, blank, and blank.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to start off saying I think this is an incredibly horrible move by the NFL making this game in Brazil. I understand that because of
Yeah.
the colors of the flags that yellow and green, there's a lot of Eagles Packers fans there, but the gang violence down there is crazy, the
Yep.
cartel and such, and the wildfires that are happening out there are really poor for player health. Causing asthma and lung damage. So I really don't get why this game is in Brazil. I think they should have done it in London and Germany. I think that's where the NFL fan base is really growing. Um, But besides that, I think the keys to the game against the Packers, I think getting to the quarterback early. I think the Packers, although their receivers are very young, I think Dobbs and Watson and Jaden Reed are very talented. Jaden
Yeah.
Reed, speedster. Dobbs can go up and get those jump balls. Watson is a good deep threat. They obviously got Josh Jacobs, who is a top 5 running back in the league when healthy. So
Yes.
they've got to close those gaps. But ultimately, I think it's really getting to the quarterback.
And
And
Jordan Davis being
yeah,
able to close those gaps.
yes, and our secondary staying strong. But ultimately, ultimately Carter and Huff and Sweat not giving Jordan Love the looks that he wants because they're getting to him within 3 seconds. So and then in terms of the offensive side, I think the offense will have a big game. I think the Packers, they're under a new defensive coordinator. He was the head coach at Boston College.
That's
Uh,
correct.
um,
Yep.
so I think the Packers are going to be adjusting a little bit to that new defense. Jair Alexander versus AJ Brown is a very intriguing matchup. So I think a lot of the targets this game are going to Smitty and Goddard. And I think Saquon will get a lot of touches as well, and I think we need to feed him early. So
I agree with that as being a key point. I think that you got to establish the ground game early. I'd really do. I want to just feed Saquon, and I want them to really utilize that ground game. And I think that's what they got to do to set the tone early on. Then they can sort of go to the air, and they can try to utilize Devontae a little bit more. I want to see some motion. I do. I really want to see bubble screens. I want to see offensive creativity when they have the ball out there. And I think that to me is something that I'm looking for. I also would really like to see from the defensive side of the ball. Yes, of course, I want them to get to the quarterback and I want them to provide pressure. Blitzing, I think, is going to be a big thing. I do. I would really like to see them blitz and also cover the seams, be able to cover those sidelines, especially at the end of the game. If Jordan Love is going to have to go for a game-winning drive, I really need these safeties and these cornerbacks to step up and just go cover the sidelines.
yeah, I
I
agree.
do. So that's something that I'm going to be looking for. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited about Friday. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be on here calling the game. Going to be taking off the Phillies that night, of course. But why? Why would I ever do a Phillies Marlins game over first week of NFL season? Like, come on. No disrespect to the Phillies, but it's football time, baby. Let's go.
I agree.
Pumpkin spice all the way.
Nothing makes me happier than watching the birds. Nothing makes me
Absolutely.
so.
Absolutely, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. Plug your links, plug your socials and plug your podcast and tell the play-by-play with JJ fan base where they can find you.
Yeah, so on Spotify, I'm on the Clinic podcast in all caps. You'll see it, a photo of me playing basketball. I think there's a photo of me in some pink sunglasses as well on there. And I got to be drippy for the fans, So that's my podcast. It's on Spotify. I'm probably gonna upload the audio file from this as well on there, and obviously repost my boy JJ's stuff. So, and then my Instagram handle is Josh_Cohen Cohen. So, yeah. Thank you for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun. I think we brought up some really good points.
And if you are listening to this on JC's podcast, he already uploaded it. So. Oh man. All right, dude. Well, I love you, man. And I will talk to you soon, man. I'll talk to you soon. We'll check in. All right.
Yeah, love, dude. Have a good one.
Yep, you as well. All right, guys. That is gonna wrap things up on here on another edition of Play by Play with JJ. Go Birds, man. I'm excited about Friday. Cannot wait to see them on the field. And I will see you guys then. Peace out.